I was in coma when I was seeing the world define me. I was somehow now the bravest girl and the most courageous girl. And at 15, like, what do you know about being brave and being courageous? And what do you know about being an activist?
Welcome to a very exciting episode of A Slight Change of Plans, a show about who we are and who we become in the face of a big change. I'm Maya Shankar. I'm a scientist who studies human behavior. Today, we're going to be exploring the tension that exists in the various versions of ourselves that we carry. The version the world wants us to be, the person that our parents raised us to be, and who we're still becoming. And no one understands this tension better than Malala Yousafzai. It is such an honor to have her on the show today. She's the youngest ever recipient of the Nobel Peace Prize, and she's an advocate for girls' education and women's rights worldwide. Welcome to the show, Malala.
That means so much to me. And you're doing an amazing podcast, and you are speaking to incredible people. And I love the name of the podcast, A Slight Change of Plans, because this is what my life has been like. I have been changing my plans the whole time. So I thought, wow, this is the show I need to be on.
I'm so glad to hear that. I first want to set the stage for people who might not be as familiar with your story, so they understand, the rough contours. You became an outspoken activist for girls' education in your home country of Pakistan when you were very, very young. At the age of 11, you wrote an anonymous blog for the BBC about living under Taliban rule. And eventually, you built up the courage to come out and to go on national television and demand that girls be allowed to continue going to school. Because of your activism, the Taliban boarded your school bus one day in October 2012 when you were just 15 years old. They shouted, "Who is Malala?" And before you could respond, they shot you in the head. You were transported to a hospital in the UK where you were in a full coma for a full week. During that time, your story rapidly spread around the world. I'm curious to know, Malala, how long after you woke up from your coma did it register that people all around the world were rallying for you, that they were praying for you, and that you were becoming this global icon?
This is that time of my life which I am still trying to process. I woke up in a hospital in Birmingham in the UK. I was seeing nurses and doctors speaking in English. I had to bring these pieces of my memories and flashbacks together to figure out what had happened. I knew that I was attacked. I knew something bad had happened, but I did not know where my family was, who had brought me here, if anybody even had heard my story or not. So it's like a time of my life that I often hear as a story about me, but I sometimes don't even know how to connect to that part of me.
Yeah, it makes so much sense. I mean, we forget that while you were receiving this top-notch care, you were away from all the people that you loved back in your community.
Yes, so my family joined me in the UK 10 days after.
Yeah.
They got their visa and everything. And that's the first time when I cried because it meant everything to me that now my brothers and my mom and dad were with me. And that's also when I realized that the healing journey is going to take a while. But I was very focused on my physical recovery. I had to go through multiple more surgeries for my facial nerve recovery, for my hearing, and they had removed a piece of my skull, which is really hard to explain to people because the brain was technically swelling because of the shooting. And so they replaced this part of that skull with a titanium plate. Yeah. So a lot of, surgeries and these technical things were happening. I was so used to the hospital environment that actually I felt weird when I was in a normal apartment or a normal home because I was like, where are the nurses? And, but I realized that it requires a lot of patience for you to recover. So I was known as a patient in the hospital. And I just could not believe when Somebody at the hospital showed me photos and videos of people holding placards of, I am Malala, we stand with Malala. And they were just pouring their support for the cause of girls' education. And one day, one of the staff members brought in a basket of cards and notes and letters. And I was like, wow, so some people have even written to me. And that's when the hospital staff member told me that, yes, there are many more boxes like this, and you have received thousands and thousands of letters. The support of people was everything to me, because that gave me the courage to know that I was not alone in my fight for girls' education.
Did you ever feel a mounting pressure within yourself that came along with all of these people who are now following you and supporting you, but also saw you as this heroic symbol?
There was a lot of pressure because of the sudden attention that I received, and I became a girls' education activist. And this is what I wanted to do. But I think more than it being people's pressure on me, it was my own pressure on myself. I felt a sense of responsibility that I am now so lucky that I have the right to be in a school in the UK and be a normal student, and people are listening to my story. So I want to use it to advocate for other girls around the world. I started my nonprofit Malala Fund, and while I was still a student in school, I was doing all of this work. But I think in the middle of all of this, I forgot to be myself, forgot to be that normal person I was in Pakistan, who had friends, who was joyful, mischievous sometimes. And I was looking for that part of me. I was in coma when I was, seeing the world define me. I was somehow now, the bravest girl and the most courageous girl. And at 15, what do you know about being brave and being courageous? And what do you know about being an activist?
So when you were 17, Malala, in high school, as though the hero narrative was not pervasive enough, you were awarded the Nobel Peace Prize.
Yeah.
And I can imagine that this is a double-edged sword kind of award, because on the one hand, it is such a boon for your advocacy work, right? It's shining one of the biggest spotlights in the world on the causes you care most about. On the other hand, what a weight to be placed on a 17-year-old who's still figuring out, or maybe hasn't even had time to do the normal exploration of adolescence. So how did you feel that weight? Did you feel pressure or anxiety around the receiving of the award because of all that it might entail?
I don't think the Nobel Peace Prize changed things that much, because already I was at this stage where I was receiving so many recognitions and awards that I had already put this responsibility on myself that now you are somehow in the list of all of these great activists in the world, so you have to figure it all out. You need to be able to fix all of these problems that girls face. And I thought, yes, all of the activists we have heard of in history, they had the magic power and they could change everything in a day. Because when you are a kid, that's how you learn about heroes. So I was still 15, 16. This is how I understood it. I said, okay, maybe once I finish school or something, somehow we'll crack the code and we'll suddenly put all girls in school.
One thing that was so striking to me in reading your memoir, which, as I mentioned to you before, I just think is absolutely fantastic and so candid, is that it showed me an illusion that I had fallen prey to, which is I really had painted you as a one-dimensional hero. I think it's very easy as humans to assign holier-than-thou status to other human beings, right? Because when I read about your bravery as a young child, I think, oh, she's just a different type of person. She falls into a different category of human that is inaccessible to me. And one gift I feel your memoir gives all of its readers is it bridges the gap between someone like me and someone like you. You revealed such humanity. Mm-hmm. You reveal that you were actually just a young girl behind this hero veneer, that there was so much more that would connect a normal person like me and someone extraordinary like you. And so one question I have for you is, given the way the world was portraying you in the media, right? Malala, the hero, did you ever feel that you had to distort who you were in order to fit that mold?
Short answer, yes. I thought that there is now this defined version of me out there, and I have to live up to that. And for me, that meant that I could not expect to have a normal life. And I thought it was okay, like not to have friends in school. I thought, maybe in university as well, that's what life is supposed to be like. You just go and get the top grades and you just move on to the busy life that you have, where you are at conferences and events and giving speeches. But you can never really be with people your age. You can never see boys and girls. You could never be in parties. You could never just be silly or talk about your favorite coffee and drinks and all of that. I just thought that that's how maybe it's supposed to be for me. But I knew that it was not healthy and I could not continue with that. And I realized that when I went to university, because there were just moments when I felt more like myself. And I was like, I feel like I'm a free soul here.
Yeah.
And it was the first time that I felt like nobody was watching me and there were no surveillance cameras following me. I was, away from my parents. I was away from my work people.
Yeah.
And it was just me in a new place. And my neighbors were my college friends. And of course, I had security behind me. But, they told me to ignore them. So I kept ignoring them. And I was like, yeah, maybe just for a bit, if I experience these things where I feel like nobody's judging me and nobody's watching me, I just want to know what it feels like.
Yeah.
So I was doing things staying up late at night, and I went to a club with my friends for the first time, which was a college sort of club night. And I climbed a rooftop, which was not allowed, which was a very risky thing. And it is such an adventure to be, that mischievous student, that rebellious student, to go up there and just to see how not many friends were actually willing to do it, just to know that this is a thriller experience only some want to have. And I am in here, I am on the rooftop of this college at midnight, and I can see the college security walking down there. And I'm like, they can catch us any moment and I could be in trouble forever. But I love those moments. And I remember just sitting there on the college rooftop, breathing in the air and taking it all in, and just to know that I sort of own the world, and I could be myself. I could be a free soul. I will never forget those moments. And yeah, college just changed everything for me.
Yeah. I think it's easy to forget that while you were advocating for girls worldwide, right, you were this adolescent who was coming into her own and discovering who she was. What was it like to explore that side of yourself, right? Because it almost seems like you were never given the luxury of time to process not only what you had been through, the traumatic experience you had been through, but to actually engage in self-reflection about the kind of person that you were and the kind of person you wanted to be. And in addition to not having the luxury of time, you were being given instruction manuals from society, from probably your parents, from your culture, about who you ought to be, right? And so from what I could tell from your memoir, college was the first time when you got to take a step back and really ask yourself, who am I and who do I, Malala, want to be, without any of that societal pressure?
And I didn't have any immediate answer to that question. But for me, it was accepting the fact that in this college, I will have experiences that will help me find out.
Yeah.
I remember on the college opening week, I was signing up for everything. I signed up for rowing. I signed up for different societies like the South Asia Society and Islamic Society. And I was like, I want to play cricket. I want to play badminton. I want to row. I want to be in this club. I want to listen to this debate. I want to hang out with my friends all the time. I was wondering how I'm going to study at the same time, but
I
had little time left for that. But I wanted to explore things, and you only know more about yourself when you have more experiences. When it's just not possible for you to just sit down and do it all in imagination.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was a blessing to be there and to get this opportunity to have these amazing experiences.
Oh, I'm so grateful for all the wonderful people that you met at Oxford that allowed you to come into your own. What a gift. One of the things that you write about in your book that I feel was so wonderfully candid and honest and helped to bridge the gap that I felt between me and you prior to reading is you open up about being self-conscious about your face after the shooting because the facial nerve was damaged, right? So your left eye was drooped, your mouth only moved on one side when you smiled. You developed some mechanisms to try to conceal the extent of the facial injuries, right? You cover your mouth every time you smiled. And people were very cruel online about the facial paralysis and the injuries. And I appreciate your being forthcoming about this because I think it's a very brave thing to do. I think it's very easy to dismiss views about one's appearance as simply, trivial and silly. And there's a quote from your book that I would love to read. No matter how much confidence I projected on stage and in speeches, I felt too ugly to love. It was a harsh truth and one I hated admitting to myself because it felt so vain and trivial. And then later you go on to say, you don't need to be attractive to be an activist, I told myself. Yeah. Tell me more about that. What a confession for you to make. And I'm so proud of you for saying something like that.
I had to be honest in sharing more about my insecurities because, I wanted to be fully myself in this book. And as much as I tried to keep myself as this strong, brave girl, who is unbreakable, yes, if I was alone, quiet, in my room, and there was this moment when I thought, okay, can I be loved? Can I love myself? Those moments were really heartbreaking. So in college, it was the first time that I was seeing boys my age. Before that, I was in an all-girls school, and even in the events and conferences that I would go to, it was all men a lot older. Mm-hmm. So I had never really seen boys my age. And I was like, wow, such a wide range of boys are here, a big variety, some interesting ones, some still like boys and so childish. But I just, for a second, I was like, oh, can I be loved? Can I be in love? And I was convincing myself, no, this can never be your life. So I just told myself, okay, I'm never going to get married. Work only, just give up on it, right? Just move on. There's nothing you can do about it. You can't cry about it all the time. So I was like, okay, I can cry quietly and when I'm alone, but outside, I'm going to stay strong. So in college, there was this guy, this mysterious guy. He was just really handsome. And I saw him sitting on a bench. And I was like, oh, what is he doing? What is he up to? He, in the end, ghosted me. He disappeared. But in those moments, even just for a bit, I thought, wow, even if it's one-sided, this is what love feels like.
Yeah.
And inside you, you can have love for somebody, they may not love you back, that's fine. So I was like, yeah, okay, I feel a bit closeness to love. But then immediately, when the crush ghosted me, I saw Assur, who was introduced to me by some friends. And when I saw him, I immediately knew there was something about this guy. I was attracted.
I mean, it's not hard
Yeah.
to know what you're attracted to. He's a total hottie.
I know. I was like, wow, trimmed beard, tall, handsome. Wow, like, and he's funny and he has a sense of humor and he laughs at my jokes. Wow, he is the one. He's just a kind person. So when I saw him, I was like, oh my God, is he the one? But at the same time, I was not thinking about marriage or any of that.
Sure.
Because I was like, it's just a feeling. Who knows? Like, who
Yeah.
knows what happens?
Yeah. While you were in college, you were having this very rich, dynamic life socially. But there was a secret that you were holding within, which was your brain was grappling with this past trauma of yours, right? And it occurs to me that you never had time to process what had actually happened to you. I think coming from a South Asian background, mental health is not really discussed. The idea of therapy is like, what? Why would you see a therapist? And tell me about that experience in which you had your first panic attack and what that was like. And had you maybe thought like, oh, that's something from my past. I can just sort of put it away.
Yeah, I thought I had fully recovered. I got shot at age 15. For me, everything was about healing from that bullet. And I never thought that 7 years later, I would be getting flashbacks about the incident. So, I had moved on. I was in college now, and I had this experience in college that like triggered and like I felt like it just like reopened that whole chapter again.
What was that experience?
So I was with some friends, and they were trying bong. So I was like, okay, like I've never seen bong. What is this? And it's very common for kids to like smoke weed. So I took one puff and I coughed. On the second attempt, when I inhaled it, I felt like it just immediately went inside my body. And that was the turning point. After that, it just froze. I thought I could not move anymore. And I started getting those flashbacks from the attack where I thought like, the gunmen were still around me and I thought I was dead or I might have just been like killed or something had happened. All of these like thoughts were just like going on in my mind. And it was truly, truly traumatic experience. I just could not process time anymore. And I thought like, what has just happened? I could hear my heartbeat. I was sweating. I was shaking. I was shivering. My mind was into this spiral of thoughts of like, am I going to die? Am I dead? What happened? Was I alive? Where am I? These kind of things. And it was really, really scary. To be honest, like the scariest night I have ever experienced. And I don't know how I made it through it. But the next day, like I realized I'm not the same person anymore. Things have changed now. And after that, I have had many more like panic attacks, flashbacks, this trauma. And I felt really frustrated that it just opened this whole chapter for me. Like I thought I would never need this whole mental health support and who would want to see a therapist? I thought like, I'm so strong. I am like so brave and courageous. Those things are not for me.
Yeah.
Like I survived an attack. What could break me down? A small thing like a bong experience, that could break me down. So for weeks, then months ahead, I tried to cope with it. My friends were everything to me in that time. They couldn't help me exactly, but they were showing that they were there for me. So one time when I just couldn't sleep after that, then they said, let's do a sleepover. And that was the first time when I was able to sleep because my friends just showed up and said, you know what, we're going to be here with you tonight.
Oh, it's very touching.
And then eventually, like a few months later, I was like in my final year of university then, and I was like so overwhelmed with everything that was happening. And I had like another major panic attack where, like, so I feel like just like lost sense of time and everything and presence. I just could not connect with my body. And that's when I remembered my friend had told me about a therapist, and she told me that I should see a therapist. And she told me that it is actually quite common for students here to see therapists. I was like, okay, I think now is the time.
Yeah.
So, yeah, like after some point, I was like, okay, I think I have to go and see what this therapist has got for me. And in our first session, I was like, here's everything about me. Like, take it all in and give me the medication, fix this problem. That's when I realized that therapy is not like that. It's a process, it takes time. And now it is a part of my life. I am so grateful that I found my way through it. And I had to accept that I will never be the same old person. This has been part of my emotional growth as well. I had these happy and incredible days in college, but at the same time, I had like this trauma and flashbacks as well. But all of that have helped me to be true to myself. Like I feel like I can get through more in life now. I'm more resilient. And even if there's something unforeseen ahead of me, I know I can ask for help.
Yeah. Tell me more about how you reconciled needing to get mental health access with your self-identity as the type of person who was so strong and so determined and wouldn't need this sort of thing. Because in your exceptional story lies a very universal feeling, which many of us have, which is, I thought I wouldn't need this sort of thing. And so how can we think differently about ourselves in those moments?
I don't think I'm the best advisor because I was so skeptical about mental health. I just thought like nobody would understand me. That's a really difficult part of it. My experience was so different, like getting attacked at 15, recovering from all of that, and not like having any flashbacks or panic attacks, anything for many, many years.
Yes.
But then it happening all of a sudden, much later, randomly in college. That was the turning point, I think, where I felt so like disappointed and so embarrassed. I was like, why now? And like, why these small things? Why am I breaking down because of such like silly small things that could like cause a trigger or that could scare me or that could sort of like emotionally affect me, mentally affect me? Like if I could, I just wanted to remind myself like, you're brave, you're strong, you can get up. Like I wanted my mind and everything to just like shift magically back to normal, but you feel helpless. And that's how I felt. Like I felt really helpless. So in therapy, just to know that there's somebody listening to you, you don't feel alone anymore. And the therapist helped me see that emotions, thoughts, feelings, and actions are all separate and different. And when we are overwhelmed with work, with career pressure, with love pressure, deciding whether to get married or not, or just like what to do after we graduate, all of these things can be overwhelming. And she used this word called like a wind of tolerance. She said, we change along the way, and our window of tolerance keep expanding and contracting along the way. Sometimes we can take in more, sometimes we can take in less. And she said, don't be embarrassed and disappointed that you are broken inside, and that it's normal and it's okay and you will get through it. And that gave me a lot of hope. And I wish like I had more of that and I had known about therapy a lot sooner. So I hope that this book can help them in some ways.
Yeah. I want to pivot now to another tension that you describe in your book. And I love that this whole show is about identity and reconciling the many different parts of ourselves that are hard for us to unpack. And this tension is between your upbringing and the identity that you are forging for yourself, right? As this feminist woman, independent woman in the world. One of your earliest public run-ins with this tension came in the form of skinny jeans.
Yes.
So you chose to wear a pair of skinny jeans while at Oxford instead of a more traditional salwar kameez, which is, more traditional Pakistani outfit. And the next day, your photo was plastered all over newspapers in Pakistan, all over social media. There was this total outcry. Can you describe the significance of that moment for you?
There was a whole controversy about me wearing jeans, and it was quite chaotic. People were criticizing me for wearing clothes that were not Islamic enough or Pakistani enough or cultural enough, and I should not be wearing skinny jeans. Why am I not wearing traditional clothes? And on that day, actually, I had gone for rowing. So it was a normal college day for me. I'm in my bomber jacket, skinny jeans. I go for rowing. I realize rowing is not for me because it requires you to get up at 5 a.m. and you need to know how to swim. And I couldn't do either of those. And then I think I took a nap or something. And then I opened my phone and there are these tweets and messages. And then I phone calls from my parents. And then they started talking to me and said, oh my God, you have caused such backlash and there's this whole controversy now. And as if I had been in trouble. But I was like, what? Just because I wore jeans in college? And I told my parents, I said, I'm not here for some pilgrimage. I said, this is college. I'm not here. Can I be a normal student, please? But I realized that I could not really defend myself on what I wear and what I don't want to wear. And you can't satisfy anybody. There are people who are criticizing you because they think you're not wearing clothes that are Islamic enough. And then there are people who are criticizing you for still wearing your headscarf.
Absolutely.
Nobody's going to be
from
happy.
All sides.
And you just you just get objectified. And people think your clothes and everything is to satisfy what they think is right.
Yeah.
And it's nothing about your own choice. So for me, it's always been about a woman's choice to decide for herself.
Yeah.
As simple as that. For whatever reasons, whatever she wants to wear, let her wear and mind your own business. So I remember my dad saying that we should maybe issue a statement. And I was like, a statement defending what? Me wearing jeans or apologizing? I will never wear jeans because I said I'm going to wear jeans because I'm in college. I want to be like any other student. Everybody wears hoodies or sweatpants and it's so normal. You don't want to wear these beautiful Pakistani clothes. They're gorgeous. Mm-hmm. But it's not, you're not here to represent your culture and all of that. You can be a normal student here. And I said, no, sorry dad, sorry mom, but this time I'm not going to listen to you guys. Mm.
Well, so it's so interesting, Malala, and I think this harkens back to an earlier part of our conversation because while you did resist your parents' admonitions in that moment, you write in your book that there was some validity baked into that concern. And here's what you write. You say, it was true. If I wanted to promote education and equality for girls and women in Pakistan, I had to be inoffensive in every way. I felt responsible for proving that an educated girl is not a threat. As long as I conformed to my culture's rules and dress code, no one in my community could say, look how Malala turned out. We were right to keep a tight leash on our daughters. And so am I reading it right that one of the pressures you felt was that you had to be the, quote, perfect messenger in order for your work in girls' education to be effective?
Yes, and I think it's always a trade-off. It's always this compromise you have to make. I don't think you can win every heart and you can satisfy everybody's opinions about you. But I knew that my cultural dress, my headscarf, are a way for people in my culture and community to connect with me, and that they don't see education as a threat, but they see education and women's empowerment as something that belongs to their culture too. And you don't have to look different. You don't have to mimic another culture to accept these human rights and equal access and education for girls. Like, we have to redefine these things in our own culture, in our own traditions.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I was like, there's always a fine line between the decisions you make for yourself for what you wear. So I think it's true. Like, we cannot hide this reality that, yes, as much as we would want a world where women can choose what they want to wear and people are not judging them, but it is still true that
Yeah.
people look at you, how you dress, and do you represent them or not? Can they relate to you or not? So I have been saying, okay, like, I'll wear my headscarf because that is a way for me to stay connected with my family. And I'm like, jeans we should allow. Like, jeans are are not like some sort of anti-Islamic dress code, Like, there are so many Muslim countries, and they some wear shalwar kameez, some wear jeans, some wear, they all wear different clothes.
Yeah.
There's no sort of like Islamic enough dress code, I think. For me, the compromise I'm willing to make is for girls in my community, that they can get an education. I am not willing to make a compromise to make somebody happy, or like, I'm like, yes, your opinion is truly correct and I'm going to dress this way. No. Sometimes we make compromises for a bigger mission.
Yeah.
And for me, that is the girls in my community in Swat and Shangla in the north of Pakistan. The school project we are supporting there, where the first ever class graduated. And these are the first girls. And, it's like a big number of girls who are graduating. The first ones in their family in 2025.
Oh my
They
God.
are already making history, and they are going to be the role models for these generations to follow.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's extraordinary. Sorry.
Yes. So anything for them, right?
Yeah. Oh my God.
Yeah, I think seeing change happen at home is the most rewarding experience ever.
Yeah.
Because you can go and talk about changing the lives of girls out there. That work is important for me. But I wanted to see it. I wanted to see it happen right in front of me.
Yeah.
And I knew that the village my parents were born is one of those places where girls do not have high schools. Like, hardly one or two have made it to a university. Somehow they have escaped into other cities. But this is going to be the first time when girls will graduate, and we're redefining girls' future there.
You said something very poignant. You said, I'm willing to compromise, I'm willing to negotiate on behalf of my work in girls' education, on behalf of those girls, but not to make someone happy with myself, right? With me. It's okay if someone's upset with me, comma, Malala, right, for wearing the jeans, but I would be willing to compromise for girls. Was that clarifying for you as you think about having to grapple with these complex choices and trade-offs as you move forward, where you realize, you know what, I have the self-confidence now where I don't have to tether my own sense of value or the contributions I make to the world with my individual choices as an individual person?
I think it's easier to say it. It's hard to implement it. Because we experience moments when we are so influenced by our culture, by our family, that we get stuck in that small bubble. And I experienced that when, I said a few things about marriage. So there was this British Vogue cover about me, and I was so excited to be on the British Vogue front page. I was like, this is insane. And I remember the journalist asking me about so many things, and then she brought up marriage. I was like, oh, what, marriage? Why do you want to ask me? Because at the time I was dating my now husband, Assur. So in that moment, I immediately said, oh, well, I don't know, why do we have to get married? Why can't we just have a partnership, some agreement between two people? But this marriage thing is just too heavy. It's too much. When that article came out, that was a whole different controversy. And the trolling was insane because people were framing it as me being against marriage and me being against the religious Islamic, nikah ceremony. And somehow that I was promoting adultery and it was just like disgusting. Like when I was seeing the responses, I was like, what are you guys like talking about? Like, or like I'm just promoting like some obscene stuff. Anyway, I remember how mad my mom and dad were. Especially my mom, she said, I wish you had never said anything. And it's really hard to process because you're like, I can't undo it. The piece is out. I can't take my words back. But why do I have to take my words back? I am 23. I know I'm seeing a guy, but I can't talk about it publicly yet because I'm still like figuring out if he is the one for me or not and if I'm ready for marriage or not. But women should have the right to question these institutions.
Absolutely.
And I knew I had like so much privilege and all of that. And I knew everything about my rights and I had an income and all of that. But I was still worried about what marriage actually means to women, how much they lose, how their career shifts. Like the more you look into it, you realize like it's not just a problem in the global south. It's a challenge everywhere where women have to make a lot more compromises and lose a lot along the way from even their earnings to their career journey, all of that. So I was just panicking a bit about marriage, and I loved the guy. I knew he was the right one for me, but I was like, well, marriage, like we have to acknowledge the fact that marriage is a reality where girls have lost their future. So many girls are married without their permission, and a lot of them are married underage.
Yeah.
And I remembered my own friend in school who was 11 years old who disappeared from school, and I found out many years later that she was married off without her choice, and she had 2 kids when she was still a child herself. So these things are heartbreaking. This is something we cannot look away from. This is a reality. So because of all of that, I was just overthinking about marriage. And when I look back, I do not regret it for a second that I took my time and I thought about it and I started reading like books and articles like Chimamanda Adichie or Bell Hooks and Dolly Alderton, and I'm just like forgetting the names. I was reading like all of these books about love and marriage and how feminist women are talking about it. And my friends and I would just be like, just debating about these things every day. And I was, speaking to my mom as well for the first time to hear her thoughts about what marriage meant to her. But that was all part of the learning process before I could decide to get married or not.
Yeah. What ultimately influenced your decision to say, yes, you do want to get married?
I knew that I was ready to get married when I spent time with Assur, when it was just the two of us. And I just realized that we were having the best time together.
Oh.
Like life with him is so much better, more fun. So we went to Lake Placid in the US, and it was so beautiful there. We would go on a hike and listen to music and play card games or poker, and I beat him in that. Initially, I thought I would ask him dozens of questions, and I will like make sure, like I'm gonna, when you feel like I just need to know everything about this guy. Like
Yeah.
that's not like I'm not gonna miss anything. I'm watching you. What do you think about this? And what are your opinions about women working? And what are your opinions about what is your opinion about a woman earning more than men? And silly questions, right? But I think you have to ask them because like you just never know what they say.
Absolutely.
He was giving very sensible answers. He was saying if a woman earns more than the husband, she's like, wow, what a blessing. I was like, okay, here's a good sense of humor as well. But by the end of that trip, I didn't need to ask him any question at all. I knew he was the one. I felt it and I was like, yeah, I am happier with this guy. And this is what I tell to people about marriage, that you don't have to get married. You can still think about it. I don't tell anybody you should or you shouldn't. I don't have any opinion. I think everybody should do their research on it. But whoever you choose to be with, your life should be happier than before.
You write in your book that, well, as part of this line of questioning, right, making sure that you talked about gender dynamics and power and whatnot, you revealed that you don't want kids. By the way, I want to be careful I say this correctly. So is it that you don't want kids, or you don't want kids right now and you're not sure? I don't want to create some sort of uproar.
No,
okay.
It's like, I know we don't want to create any controversy,
Yeah,
but,
exactly.
but like, I don't know. It's like if somebody asks me, I'm like, well, what kids? What are you talking about?
Yeah.
Like it changes everything, right? And I love kids, like, and kids love me too. Like I have the best time like with kids, but it's just like having your own kid. Yes, that changes your life completely. And it's just, I'm like, when the time comes, I don't know.
Yeah. For what it's worth, I found it so refreshing to hear you say, at least you write in your book, you told him, I don't want kids, and I need to make sure, at least right now, I don't want kids.
Yeah, he needs to know this. Yes.
He needed to know that, and he needed to be okay with that.
Yes, like if that ever happens, he should know that that is one reality.
Exactly.
And that if he's not comfortable with it, he should talk to me now, because I don't want to face any pressure later on.
What does it feel like to rebel against some of these very ingrained norms? So speaking from personal experience, I don't have kids, but I was absolutely raised to feel like, from just cultural influences, that my self-worth is contingent upon creating children.
Yeah.
Like that was a fundamental part of my identity. And so I'm curious to know whether there's something empowering about just coming forth and saying, no, I am questioning these norms, and I am asking myself whether they're right for me.
For me, it's always been about taking your time to think through it and making that decision when you feel comfortable, when you are ready for it. So about marriage, I took my time. It took a long time. I made Assur wait, and I said, if you truly love me, you will wait for me. And I think in terms of like decisions in the future, when the moment is right, we will know. But I just don't want to think about it right now.
Yeah. When you think back to the version of you in high school who had lost herself, and then the version of you who is discovering herself in college, and the version of you now that's discovering yourself, and the public image of Malala and the expectations the world has for you, what is your guide as you move forward and have to make decisions that either prioritize yourself, prioritize others or expectations, prioritize your advocacy work? Because while almost no one will face the exact pressures you face, everyone has some version of this tension in their life, right? They all will face some version of these trade-offs. So how do you think about that?
Wow, I think there's a lot to unfold and a lot to share. I can share a few things from my personal experiences. I think the first one is you have to be true to yourself. It is so hard to maintain and continue through your life if you're not true to yourself. So listen to your heart, listen to your feelings. They're telling you something. Because when you don't realize, and all of a sudden it's all like over you, and it can break you down. So I'm like, just make sure like you are taking care of yourself. I still remember, like, I just thought sleep wasn't for me, drinking water, nah, I don't have time for this. I wasn't eating well. And somehow I thought that, my work means just work only, like nothing that is outside work. But I realized that I was actually not doing well in my work when I was not taking care of myself. And it was also connected with mental health as well. So I started eating better. I drink a lot more water. We have water here. And I go for a run. I walk. I try different sports, because these things just help me like unwind and relax a bit. And it just, I think it's a good way to like make sure that you're looking after yourself. And then sometimes I just remember what my therapist told me, like if you are having that moment when it's too overwhelming and you have that anxiety, just, put your hand on your heart and take in a deep breath, 7 seconds inhale 11 seconds, exhale, and take your time. Like, I think you will figure it out. Just take your time. That's important. So I don't know what's ahead. I'm doing a lot of things that I'm excited about. My focus is on things through which we can empower girls. We can give them the right to education. We can create more opportunities for them. I'm really passionate about women's sports. So that's a project my husband and I are working together on. I love bringing women's stories to screens and just making sure that like women and girls are not just talked about, but they have the real power,
Yeah.
that they have platforms, they have tools, they have resources. Like that's when the real change happens. So we're investing in their long term through education, through sports, and we're creating opportunities for them. That is my vision. So yeah, like in this book, I talk about how I want to see a better world for girls. I know there have been many setbacks as well, including in Afghanistan, where girls are banned from education. Even recently, the Taliban said that they're going to ban internet. So that is limiting the alternative education programs that we are supporting through Malala Fund. But these are difficult times. But even these issues affect me, like they affect me emotionally. I know I want to sound like a brave girl, but this is something I bring up in the book that when the Taliban took over, I was receiving my last surgery for my facial symmetry. And when I was giving a speech about, advocating for Afghan women in South Africa at the Nelson Mandela lecture, and I was talking about how what's happening there should be recognized as a gender apartheid and the Taliban should be held accountable. We need more pressure. I had a panic attack in a hotel when like everything, all the events, everything was done. And I was not scared on the stage. Everything was fine in the interviews. But in the middle of the night, like I can't breathe. My body is like shaking and I don't know if I'm gonna be alive or not. Am I gonna die? Like what is happening? My husband was there for me the whole night and he supported me, but it's just a reminder that in the end, like we're humans, we're not that strong all the time, but it also made me reflect on what true bravery means. And bravery truly is when you stand up despite the hardest moments you face. True bravery is when you get up, when you feel like you will never be able to stand. Like true bravery is when you overcome all of these challenges and you still continue and do the work. Yeah. So for me was, yeah, I had a panic attack, but I will move on. I'll ask for help. I'll go see my therapist again, and I will continue advocating for Afghan women and girls. Like, I feel truly brave when I don't give up, when I don't let myself break down.
Your memoir seems like an effort for you to reclaim your story, right? To say, I know who the world thinks I am, but this is actually who I am, right? Here's who I actually am. What do you hope people understand about you after reading this book that they perhaps never appreciated before?
Oh, I think people find out that I'm a funny person.
You are very funny and very mischievous.
Yes. And that was me. That was the actual Malala when I was a kid. But I am reclaiming that part of me. I don't have it figured out. Like, I haven't figured it all out. But that is the reality. Like we all find our way. And this is, my hope for everybody else that we all realize that we will find a way through it. In this process, I was like reconnecting to every part of me.
Yeah.
And I'm just so happy with how it has all come together.
You should be.
I cannot wait for people to read it. I want them to know me beyond, like the 15-year-old Malala who was defined by the world. But this is the first time that I am reintroducing myself and redefining my story.